Welcome to the Love That Guy podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Ronnie Gene Blevins.
And this is Brendan Reynolds.
He got third all for billing at the end of each picture. That don't really mean much, he would say with a grin. But he held my hand tight when he poured his name out. Only 4 or 5 names down below Errol Flynn.
We are the show that celebrates the journeyman actors, the actors we all know and love, and even though we might not always know their names, we inevitably see them in film and television and think to ourselves, we love that guy.
Ronnie, what's happening?
How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Good, man. Excited about this next guest, Eric Lange.
Eric Lange, man. He's like, I'm kind of nervous. He's just so great.
He's like a powerhouse.
Yeah.
It's probably somebody you want to emulate or a little bit, look up to a little bit.
100%.
Yeah.
I just kind of like, it's like to be just so purely authentic and also be bold. It's
right.
like
The choices he makes.
Yeah. And I'm always forgetting. I know him.
Yeah.
And I know his work. Yet I'm always forgetting
that's him.
That I'm watching him in something and I'm loving him in something.
We were talking earlier, like it's almost like a good character actor is almost punished by being so good that they disappear into the role where you don't even recognize them as the actor.
Yeah. I think maybe so, because it's like even if you're not a vain person, you
want to be recognized.
You recognize that being recognized
makes you marketable.
Yeah. which sets you up for employment. Right. You know what I mean?
That's a business after all.
You know. Yeah. So I'm very curious to know. Yeah, if it does kind of losing oneself in a role like he does, if it kind of works against them.
I wonder that too. I mean, maybe we'll talk to him about that.
Yeah.
In Escape from Dannemora, I mean, he's like
Escape at Dannemora.
Dannemora. I mean, he's like you don't even recognize him. His whole face like transforms.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Of course, he plays Patricia Arquette's husband in the show, and it was based on a real guy. I'm curious. I really want to get into it with him. Talk about if to the extent to which he'll give it up. Talked about how he how he even takes the first step,
right,
and tackling a role like that, because he truly fucking blew me away.
I've heard other actors talk about how it like starts with the shoes or whatever. Like when you get into costume and makeup, the character starts coming out of it a little bit. Yeah,
man.
I'd be interested to hear more about that, because like clearly the makeup team did a lot of work on him in that show.
Yeah, no, and it's he just blows me away. I hope I don't turn into like a
fanboy,
fumbling idiot.
You'll be fine,
because I have worked with the guy before, and we kind of. But I didn't. We were in a similar movie.
What was it again?
It was Fear Inc. It was Luke Barnett's film, Fear Inc. It was a really, really fun movie, and a really talented guy is Luke Barnett. But
that's cool.
But anyway, so I'm excited. I'm legitimately excited, and hope that I can, I hope that we can talk to him on the same level, having the same profound impact that I feel when I experience his work.
I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Excited.
So, all right, let's dig in.
All right, sound good. Eric Lange. Here we go.
All right. Today's guest is one of the most authentically bold actors working today. And if you've seen him walking down the street and don't know him, it's likely his own fault, because he literally disappears into his roles. But you've likely seen him, and you likely loved his work. I've loved his work for years. Still, when I watched Showtime's 2018 Escape at Dannemora, I was floored with the actor that played Patricia Arquette's husband, Lyle Mitchel. I was moved. I applauded Ben Stiller for having the balls to entrust such a big role with a local hire, because he was too authentic to be anything else. I looked him up to see how quickly this newbie actor had been swept up by a big agency. Turns out the actor was Eric Lange. He was no local hire, and he was no newbie. He's been around for years, committing, disappearing, and obliterating projects like Narcos, Lost, Unbelievable, The Man in the High Castle, Perry Mason, and the list goes on and on. Welcome to the Love That Guy podcast, one of my acting heroes, Mr. Eric Lange.
Yeah, nice.
Welcome, buddy.
Oh, God. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
That's a pick-me-up. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Hey, man.
Well deserved.
Thank you, buddy. Yes, we are both such big fans, and we're very grateful to have you here. And I want to ask you. You're such a you've been connected specifically the last, I would say, maybe 10, 15 years to kind of this high-profile zeitgeisty work. Just been associated with good work, and even though you had worked long before that, I'm wondering to what extent you think Lost was kind of helped you get those opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I just did an interview. They're making a documentary about Lost.
Mm-hmm.
This happened before the recent news about the writers' rooms in Lost, and the sort of, I don't know if you guys were aware. There's some drama about Lost. Right?
Yeah.
But when they wrote me to do it, I was like, absolutely, because I feel like I owe a lot to that show. I was only supposed to do like 2 episodes. I was a huge fan of it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was only supposed to do 2 episodes, and I had this long hair for another job I had, and this beard and these vintage glasses, and it just all really fit well for him. And then I remember going home for Christmas, and they called and said, we want to put you on hold for the rest of the season. And I lost my mind. It was like, and I guess it was the finale of that season. Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof came up, and they were like, I think you're going to find your life is going to change when you go back to LA. And I was like, no. I guest star in all kinds of stuff. Nobody ever knows who I am and cares, And we got back, I got back that day, and whenever I got back, went to lunch in Burbank or something. And I think 3 people walked up to the table during that lunch alone.
Wow.
It was just whoa, it was a distinctive look. So it was pretty easy to spot me, I would say.
Yeah.
But it did, and then when I would go into rooms and the rooms got a little fancier, they would thank me for coming in, and oh my gosh, and then inevitably just say, so tell us what it was like to be on Lost, because everyone just kind of wanted to get the behind the scenes. So it absolutely helped get me in rooms. It helped raise my credibility a bit, and it's all credit to the size of that show. It was just. Yeah, it was such a mega hit. Anything on there was going to get some sparkle to it. So
right,
yeah, but yeah.
And also, it's like you want the kind of the accepting the idea that people know you or might approach you. It's not about vanity necessarily as much as it's about if it's a microcosm. If a couple people are recognizing you, that means that the industry's recognizing you, and the reason that that's important is because it represents hopefully more work and more work on continuously good stuff. Right.
It's just a testament to eyeballs, on the screen, which is,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what was that? What year was that? Was that 2000 what? When Lost? When
3 or 4?
I want to say it was like 2008, 9, something around there.
Yeah.
And so you noticed not only there's kind of people responding to you in the public, but you noticed that shift in your career as well, right?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it goes back to, when I moved here in 1991 to LA, I couldn't get much in the way of agents. I got a commercial agent, and I did commercials pretty quickly to pay for my free theater habit at night,
Sure.
Nice.
And because I love that, and that's where I came from. I have a BFA in acting, and so I'm like, if anyone's going to pay attention to me, it'll be because they see me on stage, know. And that went on for 8 years, and I truly thought about bailing a couple of times. It was just like, this is not what I came to do here. And then I met my manager, and who had some great connections. And I think 6 months after I signed with him, I had a guest star on The West Wing.
Nice.
and that just remained guest stars after that because of the gravitas and the credibility of The West Wing. Anyone else we called said, would you see him for a guest star? Because I had like no credits,
Right.
And they would say, oh shit, if he was on The West Wing, sure, So it's just like you're constantly, you can guest star on 7 different shows that no one watches, and your career just does this.
Flatline.
You guest star on one show that's in the zeitgeist, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You borrow their stock. It's lucky, and you don't have a crystal ball, so you never exactly know. But I was on The West Wing way late in its career, and I was late on Lost, so the audiences were already built in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're outstanding on everything you do, and we've talked at length about this morning. We were talking a few weeks ago to an actor that we all we admire, Chris Bauer, right?
Chris is great.
And and we were talking about having a purely authentic experience as an actor in the moment versus having a quality of a purely authentic experience. And I was working on a film a few weeks ago in Tucson, and I had this kind of this mini meltdown inside my mind and my heart, because if we're to all agree that is your talent is defined by your choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all work on our roles. You know what I mean? You work on your role, and that process is part of the exciting thing. But the second you've said it out loud once, then it's never going to be purely an authentic response, right? And me, I'm a huge repetition guy, because I kind of believe that you kind of have to just like you almost have to have it lose all meaning before something else arises,
Yeah.
But I'm shooting this movie, and I'm in this scene. It's emotional, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I'm kind of like, I'm pulling from this bookshelf of choices and whatnot. And I'm like, well, I'm a fucking total fraud. I feel like a total fraud right now. Because this person is here. And all I have to do is look in this kid, and this kid was just such a beautiful actor. And all I have to do is
pull it from
honestly
him.
Respond from him. And here I am, and I kind of just went blank, and then I was like, okay, well, here I am, and I'm not saying lines. I'm like, well, this is kind of a nice place to be.
Right. Just sit here for a bit.
Maybe this is at least analyzing is enough. And I'm wondering how you come to terms with the kind of those two forces, because you clearly work hard on your roles, but you also have this incredible thing where you are. That's why I said boldly authentic, because you're very, very bold, but you're also your fail-safe is this kind of just fucking only so much as I can believe. If I don't believe it, it's bull.
Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of have that internal quandary, or you know what I mean, that
oh, for sure. I mean, that's everything, right? Walking that tightrope of this is definitely honest. And then you push into a gear. I mean, I wonder if what you were struggling with was an expectation you had subconsciously set somewhere.
Yeah, right.
That this is what it's supposed to look and feel like. And when it doesn't, you start to dig for it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And when you dig, you're no longer relaxed. And now you're trying to now you're having to manufacture something,
right.
But it's that small line of I call it being rigidly flexible, which is I develop a plan that is my favorite plan to the nth degree, and then when I get there and find out, oh, I was imagining I was at a desk and they want me to stand.
Oh,
now,
right.
how do I borrow that energy that I had rigidly placed and now flexibly stuff it into me standing? What can I maintain? What can I keep of what I had, just in a different body posture?
Yeah.
And that's where the on-set stuff, you very quickly get your babies killed sometimes. There's some directors who are sure, if you want to sit at the desk, sit at the desk. But others, have this shot set up and you can't. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done this. This is maybe weird to admit, but whenever I've been truly upset in my life and really bawling about something,
Yeah.
I will go to a mirror and briefly watch.
Really?
Yes.
And
Oh,
yes.
that's cool.
And this might be weird to do, but it's like I'm just taking a little mental note of what it looks like when it's actually real.
Yep.
And this is why maybe I'm a bit of an obsessive actor, I guess. But I'm like, I want to collect how I do it
Yep.
in life as much as possible to store up there. And it does again set a bar, that if I don't get that, then I'm failing it. I guess, I read this, I heard this story about Ethan Hawke. There was this long push in across an entire conference table to him. And he's supposed to be having this realization. And by the time the camera gets to him, he should be full of emotion. And the stress of that, of a big push in at all. It's like the camera coming closer and closer to my face has still to this day makes me nervous,
Yeah.
But he said I did it and it felt so good, and the director was like, I don't know, it might be a little much, That's the other thing is I feel like I still am learning the interpretation, the math between what I feel physiologically and what it actually looks like, and it's always bigger looking than it feels to me,
Wow.
at least for me.
Well, yeah.
But he got to the end and he couldn't get there, and he's like, I'm just gonna fucking sit here. I'm just gonna sit here and let it happen. And it goes all the way to the end of the thing, and that's what's in the movie. And he's like, I look at it and it's like, that was enough. You forget that the audience imparts so much of their own feedback that you have no control over and will have no idea. It's like that Alfred Hitchcock story where he has her looking off at a boat and he's just like, we're just setting up the camera or whatever. And then they filmed that and then cut her lover going off, and everyone's like, oh, look how upset she is. She's just looking at whatever she's looking at.
Right. So
I guess the long babbled answer here is I think it's about managing your expectations of what is coming in your judgments, By the way, speaking of all of that, this is why I do this shit,
Right.
I currently have tattoos on my body that are fake for an audition because, Dannemora taught me. I replaced my teeth. We had a wig. My eyebrows were replaced. I gained 45 pounds. All of that stuff was an effort for me to have the bullshit meter just turn off.
Mm-hmm.
It just never spoke up because I believed everything I saw in the mirror.
Right.
And so that just told me over time, I'm just a more external internal. It starts out here, and when this is right, everything comes together here.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
So I don't know if you have that experience as well, but it's just one more tool I use to make me less judgmental of myself on a day and more able to succinctly deliver the truth.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Long fucking answer.
No, that's
That's great.
That's really beautiful.
We're just talking about that.
Yeah.
Like some actors say it starts with the shoes.
Yeah,
Having that visual component really feeds into the process.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It used to just be shoes for me. Now it's like everything. I love wigs. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I really. Well, that kind of answers what we were wondering earlier. So what? Okay, so how much of Lyle is? How much of that character is there by the best self-tape? Is it 80%?
You mean how much of it did I do in the tape?
Yeah. How much of that had already
figured out before?
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird story, but they had sent me the audition, and they sent me the video of him, the only video that exists with this 15-minute interview with Matt Lauer, and I remembered him. I was fascinated by that story.
Oh yeah.
And I watched it on the news, and I remember everyone was making fun of her husband, for being this guy who was getting cheated on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, who is this dude? And when they finally showed this interview, I was heartbroken because he's clearly, he had some issues, and so when they sent that to me, I almost laughed. It was like, this is not even possible. He's just different in every way.
Yeah.
I can't fathom how I could turn this into that. And through a long, I went home to Cincinnati to visit my parents with my wife and kid, and I just kept playing the interview for them. And I was like, what do you hear? He's got some sort of speech impediment.
Yeah.
And we all started breaking down just over the course of the week. I didn't think I was going to be able to do this audition. Or I didn't want to look like an idiot in front of Ben. There's some auditions you're like, you can't screw up in front of this guy.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that. And so I was gonna kind of wing it and know that everyone else was at the same deficit, right?
Mm.
None of us really are gonna look like that guy. And on the way to the airport to fly back to LA, I was supposed to go in that day. My wife's dad died,
Oh man.
and we got the call on the way to the airport. So at the airport, I called my manager and I just said, this has been a farce. I'm not coming in. I'm sorry. It's like, it wasn't meant to be. And I guess a couple weeks go by and I kind of heard my wife's dad's voice in my ear. And he was like, in my ear, she really needs you right now. She really needs, your family needs income. You need a job. Like, you need to stand up, and you're not doing this because you're afraid of it and you don't know how you'll do it. But this is an opportunity I knew all the cast was already attached, and it was like, how could I possibly step out of the ring with Ben Stiller and Benicio and Paul Dano and
Amazing
Dano and Patricia? And so I took that interview to Cinema Secrets in LA, this makeup store, and I played it for them. And I said, I need to become this. Wow. And so I bought some fake teeth and I bought a wig, and I went home and I put the teeth in, and it was just like everything fell into place.
Wow.
Like the shoes for some people, it was the teeth. Because once you have teeth that come out beyond your lip, you can't make bees as easily, And I found I was trying to kind of hide them.
Yeah.
So his head goes down a little bit, and because the saliva doesn't slide around your mouth as easily, you develop this sort of
tick.
But these little ticks.
Yeah.
And instantly, it sort of it formed it. I put the wig on and we taped it like that day. And the next morning they said, Ben wants to meet you. But it was all credited to those teeth. That was,
Wow. And the shame, right? Like,
I called it my shame anchor.
Wow.
Yeah, because you're trying to hide.
I don't know where I came up with that, but it did. It anchored the character for me, and it did. It was like, it's just something that makes someone so pathetic a bit when their teeth do what his teeth do.
Vulnerable.
And it changed the way I spoke. And when we finally had the final teeth made, I had Art Sakamoto, who's a genius teeth constructor. I had him put a little dam on the roof of my mouth so that my tongue couldn't go up the way it normally would. It was always hitting sounds, just all these. And Ben was very into all of it, getting it just perfect. I mean, another director might have been like, you look fine, but he was very, very into it. And so that just taught me. And the whole time I never thought about lines. I never thought about how I was going to do this or that. It was just all ready all the time.
Spontaneous.
It's a very rare experience for me in that way. That the critic was just quiet,
Wow.
Right. Yeah,
man, that's so beautiful. Yeah. There's been times since I watched you in that show, that I've thought about you in that show, and I've grieved for him. You know what I mean? And I'm just the guy who's watching. I wonder, you must have had there's some intense grieving for the guy playing the guy, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember the heartbreak I had for him when I first saw, and he didn't want to meet, and frankly, I didn't want to, because a lot of people don't agree that's what they come off as. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was kind of our own take on him to an extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was supposed to get out of jail at one point, and he built an entire deck off their house as a surprise for her to come home, and then she got held and she didn't make parole. It's like, it's so
sad.
He clearly loves her. It is. It's very sad. And I think that was the key to it too, was to keep him very rigidly from becoming a caricature, which is the trap of that, and Ben always liked that there was something in the performance that was kind of like almost arrogant. He thought he knew all the, the War of 1812. Like this guy thinks himself very smart.
Yeah.
And that's not a sad sack. Like he's defensive almost.
Interesting.
For sure. Yeah.
And when you're in those scenes, those like revelatory.
Yeah,
Was that the word?
I think so.
With Patricia, like, are you able to just have character thoughts in that moment? Like when you're, you know what I mean, when you're there and when you're talking about, when you know how I knew that, when you talk about how she was trying to diet or lose weight or something,
right, when you knew she was cheating. Yeah.
The prison scene.
Yeah.
Like,
that's my favorite scene in the
so good.
in the series.
So good. It's
great.
I'm just trying.
I remember that day very clearly. It was dead quiet on that set. Like everybody knew this thing was coming, and I loved how Ben set up the first shot, which is just the dividing line right down the middle and a head on the left and a head on the right, just like this tennis match was about to unfold. And no, I'm telling you, it was just one of those rare things and we got to do it for so long. I mean, it was quite a long shoot, that you just sort of become the thing. The minute those teeth went in and the wig went on, it was like wild time. And I had become very close with Patricia, and it just all felt organic, and I never questioned it. And I think too, when you have guidance from someone like Ben, at the level he is of his game, when you get a note, it's just like fantastic. Let's do it. You just knew you were just cradled through something, and he let me have so much free reign in how it all comes out. It's truly it's to this day, I think it's the best experience of my life in terms of my acting life. All things considered.
I mean, it's just powerhouse.
Yeah, it's one of the great. It's it blew my mind because, like, I don't even know if that intro was articulated, like, because I had also know you. I had known you as an actor, so I'm seeing this guy that I think is a local hire, and you know what I mean. And I'm like, wait, no, that's Eric, who I know your work in depth. So it's just mind blowing.
I had friends who watched the show, and they were 4 episodes in and saying, "When do you show up?"
That's amazing.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, because your name is in the credits, but we haven't seen you. Yeah, it was just, I mean, when you go back to, like, I just did an Apple show with Colin Farrell, and when I met him, I said, I can now testify, having met you, you're one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life. But the compliment is, I love how often you throw that away and you cover it up. And he's a real character actor at heart, that guy, I think. And
he is.
And he's like, well, it's just more fun, isn't it? And I think, like, it's a business, and we all try and elevate our careers, and who's on what project and all that crap. But at the end of the day, we all started doing this, I think, because it was fun. And it's fun in high school to play a 50-year-old man in Fiddler on the Roof or whatever when you're 17 years old, and then you move here or to New York or whatever, and you're kind of hired to be a facsimile of yourself all the time.
Yes.
It's like, this isn't the fun. The fun for me was like dressing up and totally changing yourself. And so I guess there was movement toward that for a long time. And then Dannemora gave me permission to do it fully. And from then out, my discussions with people about look and wigs and all that stuff is really heated, because it is kind of part of how I work now and how I like to work most.
Sure.
So yeah, it was a mega, like, brain blow. That whole thing. It's like, wow, this is really fun on a different level.
Yeah, and you talk about like an actor's of justifications for, like, your characters, right? So, and when you're playing Lyle, you have so many justifications for your love for her, right? But I imagine it's trickier. It's even trickier when you're playing a guy like brand new cherry flavor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome show.
And you play, if you haven't, for our listeners or viewers, if you haven't seen it,
check it out.
Yeah, terrific as this kind of pompous producer director who's just, you're so good in that. But I imagine that's, like, really hard. The justifications you make for this guy's existence because he's such
he's kind of an evil, dark
right?
force.
Is that,
Oh yeah.
Lou Burke, right?
I mean, that whole project was so out there, and yeah, please watch it to the sixth person who's going to watch it because Netflix didn't exactly.
Well, they didn't do you guys any favor. I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was really cool,
and I don't think they did you guys any favor with the title, but I loved it, man. And I like the way she's experiencing the spiritual world.
Yeah,
I'm like. Oh, I like whoever created this. I believe that all that shit's there with us. We're just being blocked from it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was originally a novel, and that's the title of the novel too.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Brandy cherry flavor. It is. It's weird. I don't know. I don't think I know what it means still. But yeah, there's something about that guy that is, on the inside, he's like, I'm just trying to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you all are making it so fucking hard,
right.
And I always thought of him, and he's kind of his own child.
Yep.
There's something sad about him. When there's this scene where he meets this producer she's been trying to meet, and he finds him in the bathroom, and they did some coke, and then he comes out and he's like, "Hey, I set it all up for you."
Yeah.
She's like, "What? Well, I want to talk to him." He's like, "No, I got it. It's great." And she's like, kind of downplaying it. And he's like, what happens when something really fucking good happens to you? But he's so kind of pathetically trying to win this clearly very next level person.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And he's just not equipped, But like with him, I would always think like, God, I'm a fucking genius if someone just give me a chance,
Mm-hmm.
And that's his thing.
Yeah.
The guy in Lost was like, I always felt like was sold a bill of goods. Like he was told, you're going to go work with the top minds in the world and develop like all these different scientific blah, blah, blah. And he gets there and it's like a bunch of hippies who have no idea what they're doing. And he's the only one there with any sort of skills. And it's like, God damn it. Get me people who know,
Yeah.
You just find ways to, as you got to craft it in something positive and
But it's interesting you say that because I had thought that maybe you didn't meet that producer in the bathroom. You just made up the whole fucking story, and you're just doing like key bumps in the fucking by yourself.
Cocaine psychosis.
Yeah.
That
really was
cool.
Such a great character, man. That's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes think like this abundance of programming that exists? And, with the streaming services and everywhere else, I mean, obviously we're, for a while we've been in this renaissance of just like all this programming, right? Which is great for the artist and the actor. You think maybe sometimes it's a double-edged sword, and for instance, this show, that like, there's no room for good, and good and great, it's all subjective, but you know what I mean? Like, unless you're coming out there and fucking like just like doing something that is blowing minds, you could very easily be a part of a show that's like, now what was that? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I get the emails, from Deadline or whatever, and it's like something canceled after 3 seasons, and I went, I've never heard of this show.
Yeah.
On for 3 seasons. There's like it's just there's so much. I think someone said there's over 500 scripted shows right now or whatever. Like
crazy.
No one. You just wonder what about the eyeball division between all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like Succession, which is like I think one of the most brilliant shows ever made.
Yeah. Agreed.
2 or 3 million eyeballs or something. Like that seems like it should be. But now there's so many different choices and options that I do. It's hard to cultivate an audience and a following, and I don't know. Part of me thinks we're going to go too far, and then it's going to drop back again somehow. Like we're gonna.
I feel like that
will correction.
Well, I feel like we're kind of trending that direction, specifically with, specifically with like with. The unions finally kind of showing up and demanding that the artists get what they want, and how are the studios and the brass and the powers that be gonna try to mitigate that? Okay, well, we'll pay you more, and we'll just slash the schedule and slash the shows, and you know what I mean.
It's the model of streaming, and by the way, fucking A for the writers. Like they should get every
for sure.
100%. Of course. As should
But
the
it's
actors.
the model, I feel like, is flawed. Like the reason you get residuals on network shows is because advertisers gave them money to give to you.
Right.
Your streaming model is just a subscription. That's not enough money, clearly, to fund the people that need the residuals. So I just feel like eventually they're going to have to go back to some sort of ad-based thing on all these streamers to be able to, otherwise, like how do they calculate the value of that airing? You know what I mean? It's like if something in the Super Bowl, $2 million for 30 seconds or whatever the numbers.
Yeah.
And then they can divvy that out appropriately. But if there's just people watching things and then paying their $15 a month, I think it's very hard for them to discern what value to place on that viewing. And I don't know. I'm way out of my depth.
It's
a
tricky model.
But also, it also doesn't seem like a hard thing to do to be able to put a counter on how many things someone's watched. You know what I mean?
Right. And the profit sharing should be more equitable too.
Netflix on it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Did you get us?
But like when you Netflix on it, do you want to keep watching this thing you were watching from the minute and the second you stopped watching it? Like clearly the app knows when I stopped, it recommends stuff to me. So I think they do the numbers. Of course, it's just transparency is problematic when shows that appear to be hits might not be hits if you saw the actual viewership,
Yeah. Well, yeah. And another thing, it does seem like they kind of are going back to that, like, the shows that, like Succession, that came out every week, you know what I mean? Like,
not binging, just like a weekly prestige model.
Yeah. What
I like it and miss that, to be honest.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. And also it's like, because I will watch a show, I will binge a show, I will enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like,
forget.
oh yeah, I remember. I watched, I vaguely remember watching 5 seasons of that show.
Right. Yeah. If you binge it, it's like in and out.
Yeah.
Well, it gives you something to talk about too during that week. You're like, what do you think is are Shiv and Tom gonna whatever,
Yeah.
So good.
And it builds up some anticipation, which inevitably makes it more enjoyable to me. But.
Yeah, 100%.
What did you do with what's the show you did with Colin Farrell?
I think it is still called Sugar. I think there was some title question. It's I don't think I should say much about it.
Okay.
Because I don't have permission or not, so I'm going to lean because of Apple towards safety. Yeah. But yeah, Colin Farrell, Amy Ryan's in it.
Great. Oh, great! Yeah,
very interesting. Yeah,
great.
Sounds cool.
Well, that's exciting, and we're hoping for it to come out this year, but we don't know. Or
I think so.
I'll stop.
Yeah. Ronnie was on Apple. You were on Apple show too.
So tell me, what does your character die, and in what episode?
What's the main plot twist?
Yeah. So at the end of the season,
do you feel like Narcos was another kind of notch on the belt, like Lost was, in terms of like industry awareness?
Yeah, I think so. It goes back to that crystal ball thing. You never know why something is going to strike or not. But Narcos had been in season 1 before I started.
Right.
So we already knew the show was a hit and picked up the series. So that was that was my first series regular.
Wow.
So that was kind of a no-brainer. What's interesting about that is I overthink auditions all the time and spend far too long on these tapes. And my daughter was just born like 6 months prior, and I hadn't really worked because I didn't know if we were going to have another kid ever, and I wanted to be with my baby.
Yeah.
And this thing came in, and it was just a scene they wrote that was never in the show, but it was basically a monologue at a bar.
Sure.
Telling one of the DEA agents, like, you don't know shit,
Right. Right.
And I learned it quickly. It felt easy to learn, which meant to me it was good writing. And I put the camera to the side of me. I was in the middle of the night because, we got our kid to get to bed, and I can't do this. So I put the camera to my side, like I'm sitting at the bar, and the camera is the DEA agent.
Right. Okay.
I only glance over. Yeah. Like this. And I would only glance over, every now and then, but it gave it some weird power because I'm not even giving you guys my,
I love
you
it.
know,
Yeah,
I love it.
I don't fucking care about any of you people.
That's great.
And
That's
it
great.
was a little risky. And I shot it 3 times. And because I'm exhausted and I'm a new dad, I'm like, good enough. Boom, mailed it off.
Wow,
Got
man.
the job the next day, you know.
It's great.
The things you just let your instinct run on are sometimes, you know, the best.
That's always the
Yeah.
best move.
That show, that part was so fantastically fun, you know, and I had that long hair still, and I asked if I could keep it. Because I always see CIA guys, they look like Ken dolls,
Yeah,
you know? It's
yeah.
like,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
you smell
G-Man.
that guy from a mile away.
Yeah.
And, you know, and a lot of guys in the field in the CIA are, you know, look like anybody. You got to be able to walk into a bar in
Right.
Bulgaria and strike up a conversation about, you know, some guy with his wife has breast cancer or whatever, and have them like, you know, work together.
Yeah.
And so the more I did it, you know, the more DEA guys I met and CIA, and they were like, this is actually it, man. This is great for this. And so I you know, maybe it stood out because of that too. It's just a great part. You know?
What a great
I wish
character.
Such a great
Yeah,
character.
it's like an agent of chaos, the way you just pop in and out.
Yeah.
It's like, it demystifies
Yeah,
the
we
whole
always-
CIA thing.
we always called him like a ghost, you know. He
Right.
was just like there, gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was always just spoiling the party.
And just
like,
monkeying with things. Yeah.
Do you?
just brilliant.
Yeah. Great character. Great performance.
I know. Since for a while there, I got this. I would get work because I would have like, and I had my hair long, you know, and then I'd think, well, okay, I cannot change a fucking thing because my hair was this length when I had these years of success. So I had kind of this like a lot of my artistic identity was in this hair, like this long hair, you know, and then like even like I finally worked on something where I played like a cop on an Apple TV show, and that, so that, you know, I cut it, and then now I look back on the long hair, I'm like, oh, that was bold of me to have that for fucking 10 years. But did you feel a little bit? Yeah. Did you feel a bit of like artistic
so
integrity or artistic identity tied up in your hair?
I feel like we're very similar in that way. You know, I feel like we probably go for the same crap all the time and just don't know it.
I'm sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But you should be going up for this, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
But yeah, after Lost happened, that definitely became like a brand. You know, vintage glasses, beard, long hair. I called it a skullet because I'm bald instead of a mullet. You know, it was like long in the back and bald on top.
Brilliant.
And I felt attached to it, and I liked that. It made me recognizable. You know, my ego will be honest and say that it was nice to like, you were always recognizable because no one else looks like that. You know, for right reasons. But then I remember looking at my reel at one point, and I was like, it's different scenes, but it feels so similar. It bugged me, you know, and I thought it was like a crutch almost. Because what I found, and maybe you do too, is like, I wasn't right for a lot of things because of that look. But the things I was right for, it was me and 2 other guys. You know,
Yes.
odds were very good if it was, you know, like a crazy scientist or, you know, whatever.
Yes.
It was like, I think this is a bit of a crutch, and I think I'm like afraid of letting go of it weirdly, because might I be any other actor then? And so I think it was The Bridge. I did this show called The Bridge for FX. I played this serial killer, and my sort of model for him was that nurse that was murdering all those people. That now there's like 4 movies out about it. But he had this kind of cropped hairdo, you know. And so I went in and I said, let's shave all this off. Let's you know. Yeah. And I did, and it's kind of been that way ever since. In fact, every job it's getting shorter and shorter.
That's great. That's great. Johnny Dowers has a lot of good things to say about you.
Oh, what a great dude, man!
In fact, let's. I texted him yesterday, and
this is your life.
Yeah.
We got Johnny right here.
Yeah, right. I said, hey, having Eric on the show tomorrow. You know, any interesting anecdotes or anything? Well, other than the fact that he's the most generous actor and sincerely kind human being you'll ever meet, I'll say this, he's such a respected, well-liked actor in person that when he was on the bridge, they had to stop everyone, including veteran actors, from posting pics with him on set because it would spoil that he was the bad guy. Folks had been told his storyline couldn't get out, and yet when everyone found it was Eric, everyone wanted a pic with him. He's the man.
That's cool. That's nice.
Johnny's the best, isn't he?
He is a great guy.
Yeah.
That was a funny scenario because I had gone in to read for this guy she has a one-night stand with.
Okay.
Who's just like the most likable, nicest guy, and she does him wrong, and then we got a call. It was just like an offer, I think, and I said we can't tell you anything about it. That we just have to have him come in and meet with the showrunner, and so I did, and he was like, "So you're going to be the guy, you know?" And we realized when you read The Nice Guy, that's exactly who should be the serial killer because no one would assume it's you.
Of course,
you know.
Of course, yeah.
And he said the problem is we're not going to tell anybody. Even the crew isn't going to know. So when you're on set, we're just going to say you're there for a fitting or whatever. So I couldn't talk to anybody.
That's great.
About doing that half of it for forever. And finally, the script came out at a table read where I slit the guy's throat, and everyone was like, "Oh!" You know, it made the job kind of complicated because, like, I can't shoot the shit about what I'm doing with this other guy, which is kind of, you know, it had its pitfalls. You know?
Sure, right. Sure. Yeah, you know, and Johnny was. Johnny knows that I'm I mean, he is too, but a Lyle Lovett fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
So he took me.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
Nice.
I seen Lyle. I saw Lyle first when I was 19 at Texas A&M University.
Oh, wow, really?
Seen him so many times since. So he took me a couple months ago to go backstage and meet Lyle. I was like,
that last time you went?
Oh, did he really?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
was this at Willie Nelson's birthday party?
No, this was it was something he did with he was doing whoever wrote Come On Baby Drive South. Another songwriter, they were playing each other's songs. And
gotcha.
it was up at Northridge maybe, and got to meet him and told him the story about meeting him at this journalism class back when I was in
cool.
school, and it was like a really big moment for me because I'm obsessed with Lyle. You know,
yeah, we never got to work together, but we follow each other on the social medias and he'll write stuff about my pictures or whatever, and I'm always like, I show my wife, I'm like, Lyle, love it,
unbelievable.
wrote something.
Yeah,
it's still so cool to me.
That must feel good. Yeah.
I don't think people who don't understand how good he is. You know what I mean?
He's underrated for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Brother, was there have you ever worked on something that that you learned something in the moment? I told you that I had this revelation last month where I was like, the authentic moment versus the rehearsed moment, and I was just examining that. And in the scene, I felt like, even examining it is enough. Do you ever learn something on a show or in a scene, something that was so profound to you that you're like, oh, this is something that I'm going to take with me and kind of incorporate it,
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's 100.
Right.
I guess the first thing that comes to mind is sort of just baked in the reality of the doing of it, which is there's some shows you get the first script and you're like, oh, this will be cool. And you start to get the second or the third or the fourth and it goes, oh man, this is or directors change up and it's like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And you're still I have this perfectionist bent, this obsessive sort of quality about always going for extraordinary, laying in the middle range there is never comfortable for me. I'm always right up until the last take of something, what else can we mine out of this? What else can we mine out of this? And sometimes it just isn't available to you.
Yep.
There are forces at play that are keeping whatever from happening. Sometimes it's just at the script level. Sometimes it's at the creative level with the people around you, and I have had this feeling every now and then to go, it's okay to just let this be what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? you don't have to turn this into something else. It's not going to happen. You're just doing a disservice to yourself at this point
Right.
to fight the current that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all you can do is go next time. You know, we can't choose any better sometimes. You know, it's like you said early on, an actor's as good as his choice is not. And I think you mean within a scene, because choosing one project over another is like, you know, it's total crap game. You know, it's like you never know.
I meant acting choices. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say choices.
I guess just knowing that, like, that sort of feeling of egg on your face when you're doing something that just does not feel whatever, and you're unable to talk anyone else out of it, to just remember there's an editor, there's music, there's lit, there's, you know, it's going to be made interesting, but it's not always your responsibility or your, you know, ability at all to change something so far from what it has just turned into. You know, it's like, don't let your disappointment ruin the scene, I guess, maybe something like that.
There's a lot of uncontrollables, right? I mean,
I feel like you know, you run into forms of that all the time, like just and I get so disappointed because I feel like I have such like probably an unhealthy level bar that I want to reach, and to have that I don't know. I don't want it to sound like I'm this genius and everyone else there didn't get it, and so I'm sad. You know, it's just it's
I understand what you're saying.
You know, confluence of events that you go, well, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and stop trying to make it that. You know.
Yes.
Expectations.
Yeah, I get it.
Because if you do relax and shut up your head, you can go, I can still make something interesting out of this. If I go a complete opposite road, if I just for fun, because fuck this, I don't really like what I'm doing right now. If I just go the opposite direction, what if it's interesting? You know, and I remember my first season on Perry Mason, this guy was kind of quiet and reserved, held his cards close to the chest, and it was a sort of a goal of mine to say, how little can I do and still be read? I want to, because I had gone, you know, such extremes with Lyle and things like that. And I'm like, I want to see if I just sit and literally listen and ignore these cameras altogether and just sit. And if I want to look over there, I look over there, and I have no cognizant, egotistical knowledge of this outer view. Interesting. And it is, you know, because that is, you know, I always think when you're watching dailies or something, and it's the moment before action and after cut, when someone's just sitting at a table, you know, or wherever they are, and they're prepping. I don't know if you've seen this of your work, but I have, and it's like, oh, that guy's got something going on in his head. That's really
inner monologue.
Yeah,
his body, he's looking at something over there, and then you go action, and you go, so. And suddenly you're just this thing that's delivering lines to one thing, and your thoughts seem singular only to this one purpose. And like, there's a lot of shit in our heads.
That's great, man.
And then you're back to the guy who's like relaxed, more three-dimensional, more organic. You know, it's like borrowing that after action and cut and putting it in between is the real work, you know, I think.
That's great, man. Yeah. And the more I can also, like, I noticed, like, another thing I think that like grounds me or puts me into the reality is like, you know, like, you know, when you're alone, you'll let yourself, maybe you have an itch, you know, and you're like, you'll let your like kind of face disfigure or something, you know, or I'll kind of like do weird shit with my face that you would try to never do in public.
Right.
So if I'm like, if I'm feeling like like inauthentic or self-aware, I'll like maybe do something that's like not flattering. You know?
Right. Yes. Purposefully.
Like, like they could only be that you would only want to do when no one else is around. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. You know.
Like forced vulnerability,
like a tick. Yeah. You know, or stuff that I actually do, but it's like, okay, well then, it's almost like,
stare your insecurity right in the eye.
I actually heard you talk about in an interview once, and I think it's something you said about letting your belly hang out, right?
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah, that's my friend Mike Ostrowski. That's his term. He'll do my auditions with me a lot, and we'll do it. And again, it's that thing I was just talking about of there being a certain amount of tension and a pose that forms. Once you do something a certain number of times, it becomes predictable. You know, you've got a posture. This is when I lean forward. This is when I lean back.
Mm-hmm.
Even the delivery of the musicality of the words. You know, and he'll say, "All right, we got it. Now let's do one. Just let your belly hang out." And that just means being more raw, more honest, not giving a fuck about this camera. You know, I don't know. I never see anybody lean down and pick something up in an audition. I'm like, that just looks, it makes it feel like this is actually happening.
It's great.
I'm not afraid of the piece of art we're making here. It's like a person who is being filmed, but their attention is on, it's like, just whatever makes it more messy.
Yeah.
I like messy, like wardrobe, and I'm always like, please don't tuck it that way. I just want it to, like, when you sit down and stand up throughout the course of a day, this does get wrinkled, and job.
Yep.
We have to have this buttoned, and I just like, whenever you watch a trial, a courtroom trial or something, you see how much less dramatic, shit is, and just do whatever I can to, like, find pieces of that. It still needs to be entertaining,
Yep.
but finding just like what looks like just real behavior. And I think going back to Perry and going back to, dismissing your expectations about things, sometimes it's just about going, stop trying to be anything, just actually sit at this desk. If you see a piece of dust on it, wipe it off, whatever, Brando in Streetcar and that scene when he's in the doorway with her and he leans over and he picks a piece of fuzz off her sweater. Just, like, that's
a great moment.
Yeah.
It's just honest.
It's honest. It's jazz.
Jazz.
And
well, you're aware. You're like in the, you're actually alive in the scene. You're actually, anyway.
And very few people play jazz like you, my brother.
Yeah.
It's really fun to watch.
True maestro.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
I know we don't have much longer with you, but do you have and thank you for indulging us a little bit on the process. It occurs to me that the big reason I want to do that is just because I get the opportunity to talk to actors I admire and then glean something from their process, and if I'm lucky, actually steal a few things. I saw there's this article.
It's a lot of what I listen to. Actor interview. I feel like I always learn something, and I'm not done by any stretch. So I'm envious of your seat here.
Right on, man.
I get to talk.
I saw this interview with Sam Rockwell, and he's like, what do you do like to prepare for a role? And he's like, well, first I find an actor like who had a lot of success with a similar type of role, and then I watch that
and steal it,
and then I just steal as much as I can. And the interview is like, what, you like borrow? No, he's like, no, I straight up steal.
So honest.
Yeah.
Smart.
That's what we're all doing, subconsciously or not.
Yeah.
You're just doing a cool thing you saw and it's stuck in your head. You can't help it.
Yeah. Do you have a thing? Do you have? I don't want to sound pretentious, but fuck it. Do you have do you have like a kind of a ritual you do to kind of like when you're like, all right, I'm done with this role, I'm done with this guy? You have a ritual?
No. I remember in acting school, our teacher was like, you draw a circle on the ground and you stand in the circle as your character. When you step out of the circle, you've dropped your character, and I haven't felt the need to do that in a while, just sort of, especially once you have kids, you come home and that character is.
They force you to drop character.
Oh my God.
Give me a glass of water. Give me some Cheetos.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm your dad. Okay, brother.
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like I find like with Lyle, actually, for a while, it was like whenever I would imitate someone else, it kind of, my wife would just go, you're doing Lyle, There was like parts of that did literally kind of stick in my, But no, do you find you need that? Do you have a?
I mean, some are harder to shake, right? Some must be harder to shake than others.
when I did like 5-6 months in Emancipation, and because of the
Right.
nature of kind of what we were doing,
right.
and
You were living
we
in
talked a little bit about that, but
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah,
you had a couple of meetings on that,
Yeah.
which I thought I thought you would have been fantastic,
Oh yeah.
Ben
Oh,
Foster
yeah.
was fantastic, and you're really interesting. I played Ben's right hand man in the thing. So like anyway, so that was a little tough,
Mhm. It was a gnarly character.
Yeah, that was a little tough. I didn't even just because it was just so many months and the nature of what it was, and I mean it was just
Yeah. That script was hardcore.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily. Yeah, I don't know if I have a ritual going in, and it's maybe I'll cut this out.
Oh, what's that?
It's a little.
Give me a secret.
It's a little psilocybin, like
that helps.
a little microdose psilocybin.
Little mind.
Oh, there
machine.
you go. Yeah. Yes.
Maybe we should. I don't
okay.
want my son to ever listen. Whatever.
That's years
Anyway,
down the road.
Who cares? It's fine. It's practically legal in LA now. But no, not really. Although I will say that it was a little tough on Emancipation, because it was just such a heavy fucking thing, But I don't know, man. But so what do you think, man? So this hopefully we get through this this strike, these you think the actors are going to strike? I guess there's no way to know.
I think we have hit an inflection point, and the graphs don't work,
Yeah.
just a couple guys going up every year and everyone else just slowly going down.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that people like that understand is force, is real, dramatic action. And I honestly hope, I know the directors have reached some sort of deal, and if it's, I don't know the specifics, but I honestly hope they vote it down, and I hope they join, because I think if we all shut down, this strike will be over in a week.
Mm-hmm.
But if we keep dragging out one, and I don't know what they're going to be able to do anyway with no actors and no writers. Maybe assuming the actors are going to strike, I think we have major issues that just knowing who they are, I don't think they're going to give into on week one or in a meaningful.
Probably not.
Sure.
And again, I think it would help. I think people, the rhetoric I keep reading that I resonate with is like all for one, we can't leave someone behind. And it is, look, going back to theater, it's exactly what this is. Right. There's crew, there's makeup, there's costumes, there's, sets and actors and writers. And that is what is required to make this stuff and to make it good.
Yep.
And you can't have one group, I don't know. I mean, I think it'll end quick. And if not, then I see it going on a minute, But we got until June 30th to find out anything.
Yep.
Well,
it's necessary though.
Yeah. Go union. Go labor.
Well, my brother, we're really grateful that you did this.
Thanks, Eric.
And I know it's going to be illuminating for our listeners, and keep doing what you do. We're such fans, and man, keep crushing it.
Yeah, thanks for all the great work, Eric.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Oh man, thank you guys. I'm a fan too, and I love. See, that should be an audition.
That was honest. That was an honest decision.
That looks real, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I always love talking shop with actors I respect. So thanks for letting me geek out too, and I'm honored to be here.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Well, all right, man. Be well. Let's stay in touch. Good luck on your audition.
Yeah, let's meet in life someday.
Sounds good,
For
Bubba.
sure.
Well, we actually did a movie together, but we didn't work together. Fear Inc. with the great Luke Barnett. What a nice guy, and what a super
Barnett,
talented guy, by the way.
Yeah.
If he hears this,
Nice.
He's such a funny
I got
guy.
to know Luke from sitting at No Bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just conversations at No Bar, and now he's just he's doing great. So fantastic.
That's cool.
All right, brother. Well, have a great summer. Let's chat soon, okay, buddy? All right.
All right. Thanks
Bye-bye.
again, guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Eric.